Hello and welcome. My name is Jasper Theunis and I'll be your host of the day. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining this webinar. It means a lot to me that you all registered and joined the call. Thanks. Today I'll talk about self-service analytics, which should be key in your organization's transition to more data-driven decisions. But first, just a couple of points to get us started. The webinar will last around 30 minutes and is followed by a Q&A. You will be muted during the webinar and cameras stay off. I have a neighbor with around 15 Rottweilers, so it could be that they want to say hi during the webinar, but normally that should not stop me. Questions can be raised via the Q&A icon in the bottom middle of your screen, and I'll try to go through each of them after the webinar in the Q&A session. If you have questions after the webinar, you can always drop me an email at my email address, which is jasper.theunis@sbiconsulting.be. We will send a follow-up email within a few days containing links to the slides and the recording of this session. Additional information requested throughout the webinar will also be answered. All right, we went through the formalities. Let's go. So, Jasper Theunis, I work for SBI Consulting, and for about 10 years, I am helping companies implement and develop analytics from various positions. I mainly worked with SaaS products, but I'm also familiar with Tableau, Qlik, and Python. For your interest, I'm the left one on the picture. I work for SBI Consulting, which is an Antwerp-based company of around 40 people. We are shaping business analytics since 2007 and are strong in data analytics, data management, and data governance. Because most of us are SaaS specialists, we are listed as a SaaS Silver partner. SBI is part of the Kronos Group, which is a large network of mainly technology companies. On the agenda for today, we will start with an introduction to self-service analytics. I will explain the importance and the added value of self-service analytics. The webinar is built around a framework consisting of 4 pillars: plan, people, data, and analytics. So plan is the actual preparation of the SSA project, the prioritization, and the communication. In the background, you can hear those dogs. People, it's data culture, the roles in SSA, and training formats. Data, different data layers, and data governance. And then last, analytics is the customization and the storytelling. Then we conclude with the key takeaways of this webinar. Questions will be answered during the Q&A. So I added a few teasers to warm you up and to make sure that you want to stay until the end of the webinar. BI is dead. Long live self-service analytics. Your company is data rich, but information poor. Self-service analytics are like soda machines. And finally, the G word is not sexy. What is my goal with this webinar? I want to convince you that self-service analytics are crucial in an organization because they play a big role in rolling out data culture and becoming a company which is run by data lovers. And to improve data insights. Because insights are created by domain experts, the quality will be higher. I want to explain how to set up a self-service analytics project, and based on my experience, I will explain how to avoid common pitfalls. What do I exactly mean with self-service analytics? If we look at Gartner's definition, self-service analytics is a form of business intelligence, BI, in which line of business professionals are enabled and encouraged to perform queries and generate reports on their own, with nominal IT support. It's a bit of a long definition, and for me as a non-English native speaker, there are some difficult words in it, like what is a line of business professional? And what is nominal IT support? I only partly agree with this definition. It should not only be limited to business intelligence and querying and reporting. It is much more than that. For me, self-service analytics is also running forecasts, exploring data sets, and finding new insights. It is also providing employees data building blocks, putting an environment in place which stimulates data discovery. So I created a shorter and, in my opinion, better definition. It is to allow end users to generate own insights without being analytics experts. So why are analytics so important? Well, they help you to understand your business better. Why is product X a bestseller? Why do certain customers churn? It allows you to make proper decisions. What will be the impact if you launch a new service or product? And it increases efficiency by, for example, only selecting groups of customers as a target for marketing campaigns. You will have better responses and lower costs. In general, analytics help you to steer the boat, in your company, in the right direction and to make your organization outperform the competition. Insights are 100% tailor-made and controlled by the business experts. This means that nothing is lost in translation between people and that all data are interpreted and handled correctly. Less people involved means that it's easier planning-wise and insights can be created rapidly if needed. It is done by the domain experts who know what's hot and what's not. They are in the best position to assess the urgency and added value of a certain insight. If done properly, IT should be less involved, which means that their resources can be used elsewhere. Bam! One of the teasers. Business intelligence is dead. Long live self-service analytics. Are traditional dashboards and reports really dead? No, of course not. I exaggerated a bit. Business intelligence, a concept that exists already for years, can perfectly coexist with a self-service analytics environment. You should see self-service analytics as an evolution of BI, like a BI 2.0. Many of the BI competences can be reapplied to self-service analytics. If you already have a BI team in place, you can transform it with a few trainings and additional resources into a self-service analytics core team. Self-service analytics is more than implementing a few tools, and that is why we built this webinar around 4 pillars: plan, people, data, and analytics. When applied correctly, it will put you on the right road to data insights with self-service analytics. I'll explain the 4 pillars briefly, and later in the webinar we will go through each of them in detail. First, we have to plan. How to start, how to prioritize, and what do you want to achieve? People, everyone in your organization will be involved. How can they be motivated and trained? Data, the most fundamental thing for self-service analytics. Without data, there are of course no insights. The last one, analytics. There are different types of analytics: how to prepare, how to analyze, and how to present your findings. You could argue that there should be a 5th one as well, the technology pillar, in which we could explain how to select the right tools and/or platforms for your needs and how to integrate within or connect to your existing environment. But it is really tied to your organization and too specific, so we decided to leave this out of this webinar. The first pillar is the planning and preparation. I'll quickly repeat. How to start, how to prioritize, and what do you want to achieve? And these are the questions that will be answered in this part. I want to start with the following quote. It comes from Mikko Yuk, the CEO of BI Brains and host of the Analytics on Fire podcast, for which I included the link in the notes. Most organizations are data rich, but information poor. Data storytellers know that the key to transforming data into information and knowledge is asking the right questions upfront to ensure that their reports and data visualizations tell the right story. I think there is a lot of truth in the first sentence. Organizations are collecting tons of data, but the extracted information is not always in relation to the amount of data. A lot of questions remain unanswered. And the second part, preparation is a key to success. The more questions you ask and the better you know the data and the needs, the better the results will be. One remark, this quote can also be applied on data analytics in general and not only on data visualization. How can we avoid with self-service analytics that our insights do not deliver enough information? Well, by asking yourself or your colleagues the right questions. Try to focus less on what is happening and focus instead more on the why it is happening and how you should act. I have a few questions and I will try to answer them with an example. What do you want to see? Well, I want to see the relation between the weather and the beer consumption. Why do you need it? I need to reduce costs and I want to optimize the production. But what are your goals? I want to avoid having an undersupply or oversupply in beer. So what will you do with the insights? I will plan my brewery and workers accordingly. By asking all these questions, you will automatically get business-driven challenges. Repeat this process for each problem or challenge you face and summarize them in concrete business cases. It is impossible to implement all identified cases at once. I would strongly recommend starting with smaller ones. Choose a case which would solve a pain point where you can show the progress and the results. By choosing a smaller one, you allow yourself or your team to get to know the technology and new processes and learn by doing. You will grow and become more mature in the domain. Delivering is key here because it will put your project in a positive spotlight and it will be supported by all stakeholders. After successfully delivering insights, you can gradually increase the difficulty and leverage the newly acquired knowledge. A number I see regularly in articles and webinars is 87% of data science projects never make it into production. There are multiple reasons, but I'm sure that starting with a business case of too high complexity is one of them. Once you set your priorities, you probably realize that self-service analytics will not solve your problems at once. It will help you to identify problems and spot opportunities, but it is still up to the company to take action. For internal communication, it is important that you manage the expectations. Yes, in the newspapers you read crazy stories about robots and AI, but they also took time and investments of resources. Make sure that everyone understands this. Self-service analytics are a long-term investment. The first cases will always go slower than expected. On the other hand, you have communication coming in from mainly technology vendors and consultants. They do a great job of equating self-service with their products. Too bad, until now there is no tool that can do everything for you. You will still need to do a lot of things yourself. And those things take a lot of time, even if promised differently. On to the next pillar, people. A lot of people in your organization will be directly involved. How can they be motivated and trained? With a few tips and examples, I will try to boost the adoption rate of your self-service analytics project. People are curious by nature and many like to experiment with new things. Make sure that you have some data and live documentation available so people can start playing with it. You will get the ball rolling and you will receive more requests and additional support questions. Make use of this momentum and don't let this opportunity pass. When at higher levels in the hierarchy, number or models are used for decision making and in communication, people will be very proud of their accomplishments. With the subsequent word of mouth marketing, you get the result that self-service analytics can spread like a wildfire. As said previously, a lot of people will be involved in your self-service analytics project. You could reuse the competence center of your current BI competence center and transform it into some kind of self-service analytics project core team, which can function as a support team to help new analysts. I will try to explain all possible roles by analogy with a soda fountain machine. I hope you can follow me, but it will need some fantasy from your side. So you have domain owners who have the expertise of data and business. Well, I see a similarity with the R&D departments that create the flavors of soda. So they know everything about their drinks. You also have information consumers, and they are just customers who drink their cup of soda. You have data explorers, people who like to experiment and find their own things. For me, they are the customers ordering and filling the cups. They decide how much soda they take and which flavor. You have visualization artists. I see a similarity with cocktail shakers. So they know recipes and how to combine flavors to make delicious drinks. You have data scientists, and those are more using scientific techniques. And I see the similarity with a mixologist. So someone who writes cocktails recipes and who tries out a lot of different flavors together. You have a data architect. It's similar to the designer of the machine. So someone that makes sure that all flavors are available. You have a data engineer who actually builds the machine. So it's the factory worker, and so on. So depending, of course, on the size of your organization, these roles can be combined if necessary. Self-service analytics and self-service does not mean handle it yourself. People need and expect support in order to start using applications. Most applications come with a heavy price tag and expensive consultants. So if your tools and data are not used, you are just burning money. Different people means different backgrounds, which means that they will have different learning curves and thus different paces. Each user has, of course, his own format preferences, so that is why I recommend to provide training in different formats and different paces. If possible, set up a flexible training plan that users can follow in line with their preferences. Classroom trainings are nowadays less in demand, but are in normal times for most people the preferred option. The downside is that they need to be planned way in advance and are less suited for ad hoc training. If it needs to be available on demand, e-learning, recorded webinars, and papers are a better option. In specific cases, you can consider on-the-job coaching by a specialist. Also very important is that trainings should be offered just in time. This will result in a higher adaptation rate because the training material is fresh in memory and can immediately be applied to real cases. I know a real example where multiple users had to follow the same training twice in 1 year because they never used it and forget 90% of the theory. Talking about burning money. One last word about training. I saw it also happen in several projects and always with success. Organized knowledge groups where similar profiles from different departments come together and share their expertise and tips and tricks in a less formal way. You can also appoint ambassadors who can spread the message and function as point of contacts of the self-service analytics project. And last, make sure that your superstars, so people with the highest expertise in a certain area, still have time to solve challenges which are not documented or really complex. The third pillar is data, and particularly a self-service data platform. So the most impactful way organizations can facilitate self-service analytics is to build a robust data platform that provides domain-specific data sets and is geared to empower business users and domain experts. To establish this platform, we rely heavily on the work of data architects, data engineers, and the data governance team. The goal is to deliver relevant data to people who need it, when they need it, and help them make sense of it in a format they are comfortable with and which fits their needs. You can call it data building blocks. They will be made available in different layers or views with different aggregation levels and selected details. So raw data, it can be used by data scientists who apply scientific methods on data to get new insights. You have some kind of exploration or in-between layer for power users and visualization artists. It's still highly detailed data. And then you could implement presentation layer, which contains aggregated data and only a selection of variables. And this is for end users with no really advanced needs. Your mission will be accomplished when analysts spend more time analyzing data than finding and cleaning it. And data governance, it is also very important. It is a framework to ensure the quality and availability of data in your organization. Without data governance, you can throw all your results in the garbage bin. You need data governance to ensure that your numbers are correct and are the only version of the truth. Otherwise, there will be differences and they will without doubt be challenged. Avoid at all time discussions about exact numbers because it takes away all the attention of the actual insights. Concrete data governance helps by using validated data sources. And ideally, the quality of these data sources is monitored and corrected where necessary. Data governance teams ensure there is traceability on the sources and guard that compliance rules are applied on them. They create and maintain data dictionaries, which include definitions for all of the commonly used data items. In some organizations, a client has 10 different definitions. So it has as effect that if you want to count the number of clients, you end up with 10 different results. And the goal of those data governance teams is to clarify and use one organization-wide definition. Data governance, or what I called the G word in the teasers, is not sexy, but it is crucial to make your self-service analytics project succeed. We arrived at the last pillar, and it is analytics. And I set two main goals of analytics. The first one is to provide answers to the right questions. In the planning phase, you prioritized certain cases with specific questions and make sure that you answer the question for 100%. Also think about which potential questions could pop up afterwards and if you can cover them already. Make these answers consumable by telling a coherent story. Ensure that the created insight is in such a format that your customer can understand and reuse the information. If the insight is pure for own consumption, which is not often the case, this is of course of less importance. Try to get to know your customer, and with customer we mean the audience, one person or a group of persons you're analyzing for. It can be one of the following, yourself, a colleague, a manager, or even an external party. To be sure that the end user is comfortable with the delivered insight, it is crucial that you know his insight's behavior. We recommend defining different profiles for them and ask them the following questions. How do they consume insights? How often and when? And what do they do with it? It is crucial that you get to know each other and that you have short lines of communications, so you can quickly iterate and show the progress with intermediate results. With these short feedback loops, you will both be sure of being on track and heading in the right direction. This can save a lot of time and frustration. Imagine you are working on a complex report for weeks, or a report or model, and after delivering the results, you get a message that half of the requirements have changed and that the insight is actually no longer actual. Always try to avoid this. Now that you know what to analyze for whom and with the selection of data, it is time to unleash the beast. Let the machine work for you and do some analytical magic. Until now in this webinar, everything we did was and is the same regardless of the nature of wished insights. Two terms that are often used are BI, or business intelligence, and data science. Since they have a lot in common and are not strictly defined, I prefer to use a broader term, data analytics. Data analytics can be broken down into 4 basic types, which will briefly be explained. Since each of these types actually deserves their own webinar, we are not going more into detail. So we have descriptive analytics, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. And they ask the following questions. What happened? Why did it happen? What will happen? And how can we make it happen? One is not better than the other, and the different types complement each other. But the complexity rises when going to the right side. So for self-service analytics, I propose to start with the less complex cases. Once you've finished your analytics and you found the requested insights, it is time to present them in a structured way. Start with an introduction in which you specify why you created it, which questions are answered, which data were used, which filters you applied to subset the data, and which data definitions were used. Show your key insights and draw up the conclusions, and end with concrete steps you think are necessary as a follow-up. So with analytics, we finished the last of our 4 pillars, and we arrived at the end of this webinar. I would like to summarize the last 30 minutes by giving you some key takeaways. Self-service analytics is more than just installing the right tools. It's also about culture, about managing a data platform, and providing data building blocks. A recommendation is to start small. By starting small, you can deliver fast and convince quickly more people to jump on the bandwagon. Share knowledge within communities. So people like to learn from others' success stories, and it would be a waste not to share experiences. And then clean and available data are everything, not sexy, but essential. That's it for now. I want to thank all of you for attending this webinar of SBI Consulting about self-service analytics. If you are interested in one or more topics touched in this webinar, please do send us an email and we will arrange a dedicated session. I will now address questions. In case I didn't handle your question, we'll come back later to you. Okay, I'll just stay here for 1 minute longer to see if any questions arrive. Okay, there is one question. Thank you, Cedric. Do you have any tips on measuring return on investment on self-service BI? It's a bit of a tricky question, but I think you, with monitoring the usage of your self-service analytics insights, I think you get some idea of what the benefit, the real benefits of self-service analytics are. But it will never be a concrete number. But yeah, I would suggest to organize some monitoring and to see how it's used. And then there is one more question. How is your daughter? Okay, thanks. She's doing great. Yeah. So okay, I think we can round up the webinar here. Thanks a lot, and see you next time.